Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Project Anton. First of all, I might have had really low expectations, but I am really blown away by the amount of interest and support you have shown me. So I will try my best to keep up and live up to it. Thank you. Now about the boat. It is now gutted, so completely empty on the inside and free of all the deck hardware. Now I will turn my attention to the outside of the hull, mainly the underwater portion of it, specifically in this video. Let's get started. The hull itself seems to be in quite a reasonable shape. There are a few scratches in the part of the hull above the waterline, and the paint job will have to be renewed, of course. I found some stress marks on the underwater part of the hull, but it's not such a big problem, I believe. The underwater paint will have to be, of course, scraped, sanded and applied new. I suspect that I will have to remove and reattach the keel because it looks quite rusty, and I found a few cracks in the bilge where the keel bolts are. The hull has to be manually scraped first and then sanded because it's actually faster that way. Thick layer of anti-fouling paint would be clogging up the sanding papers almost immediately, and I would have to change them all the time. Moreover, sanding this paint gives off a lot of dust, which is especially bad in case of anti-fouling paint. Thankfully, this paint was in such a bad condition that it was quite an easy process, almost enjoyable even. There's much less space on the other side of the boat, so there's no footage from there. Moreover, I think it would have become a bit too repetitive. Here I'm using an orbital sander with some 40 grit sandpapers to remove the rest of the paint and primer. These patches that are left behind are apparently from some previous repairs. They will all get sanded eventually. The concave part of the hull near the keel is very difficult to sand with the machine without damaging the machine or the hull or even both. It will get sanded later by hand. Remainders of the paint near the waterline are carefully sanded with a straight edge orbital sander with a much smaller stroke. The bottom of the hull is now all clean and nice, and you can see all the defects I found, marked with some tape. Now I'm grinding open some spots that look more critical. The goal is to remove damaged layers of gel coat and fiberglass, hopefully without going all the way through the thickness of the hull. Here I'm performing a very scientific test with a tool that happened to be nearby. I was looking for any signs of some more serious delamination in the area, of which thankfully there were none. I have found, however, that the moisture content is higher in the damaged area. I don't really know what are the units on this meter, but I just know that that's noticeably higher than it should be. After I sanded more material away and gave it more time to dry, it was dry enough to continue. So, after I removed all of the underwater paint, anti-fouling paint manually by scrubbing it off and then by sanding the whole underwater part of the hull clean, I found out that the underwater part of the hull is in a bit worse shape or condition that I imagined. But then I took a closer look at the part of the hull that is above the waterline, and fortunately it seems to be in a bit better shape than I imagined. So there are some scratches in the upper part of the hull, but it's fine. There is just a one spot with a quite large and noticeable crack that I will have to grind or sand open and fix, but that's fine. What I found in the part of the hull that is below the water, it's actually full of different sized cracks that look to me a bit like stress marks. Some of them might be actually from some kind of collision that happened to the boat at some point. The worst of them is probably this one that is right where the hull curves in near the keel. There is a bundle of long continuous cracks in the concave area and a series of spiderweb-like cracks right above it. I will open this area a bit more to have more surface for the new material to adhere to and just to make it a simpler shape to laminate. In this video I'm focusing only on the outside of the hull, but I will inspect and fix it if needed on the inside as well. One spot I accidentally sanded a bit deeper, but that's not the end of the world. Here I'm filling in some deeper cracks with polyester based putty, which is very durable and works well with the resin I will use for the lamination. Spreading putty with a spatula like this can leave some sharp edges or peaks that will have to be sanded. Here I'm brushing some resin onto the fresh putty to smooth the surface out. Now about the lamination. The cracks I found in this area looked quite bad, but none of them seemed to go all the way through the hull. The goal of this lamination is to reinforce the area. Because of that, I have opened a bit larger area than would have been necessary just to repair the cracks. I will laminate 3 layers of fiberglass. 2 layers of chopped strand mat, with a layer of diagonally woven fiberglass cloth in between. My reasoning behind it is as follows. First, although not necessary, I wanted at least one layer of woven fiberglass to help spreading the load in this large area. Second, I find woven fiberglass quite awkward to laminate directly onto a hard and uneven surface, and the layer of chopped mat helps a lot with that. Third, I find the woven fiberglass to be sometimes difficult to properly de-air, and the ends of individual strands like to stick out when rolled. A layer of chopped mat on top helps with that. Lastly, just 3 layers will probably be enough, because I didn't remove as much material as I originally imagined, and I will reinforce this area from the inside as well. Here, unfortunately, you may notice quite a jump in the progress I've made. I didn't film 2 steps of the process. Rough sanding hardened lamination to the shape, and then applying gel coat based putty or fairing compound. Here I'm starting probably the most time consuming and difficult part of the whole process, fairing laminated areas in with the rest of the shape of the hull. It will involve using different machines, quite a bit of hand sanding, and lots of running my hand along the hull to make me look like I know what I'm doing. After the overall shape is good enough, because it'll never be perfect, a second round of fairing compound is applied to fill in any smaller imperfections or low spots. After that, ideally, just a quick hand sanding to rough up the surface is enough and the hull is ready to get painted. Next time I'll continue working on the hull, but now above the waterline. There will be some similarities to the processes shown in this video, but with some twists. For now, thank you for watching and see you next time.